Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Embracing Life in Issaquah, of all places. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, Rebecca Kuno-Scott. Hello,
hey,
Rebecca.
Everybody.
Hello, everybody. Beautiful weather. Hey, I'm loving, Pacific Northwest in the spring and summer is crazy good.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy
Can't be
good.
beat, for sure.
Cannot be beat. And I think it's cool because we get to talk about that a little bit today.
Yes.
In this episode. I mean, look, we're talking about, what would you call this conversation? Like outdoor living or what? Like,
I think embracing outdoor living is a great, a great segue. And it's sort of a continuation of the selling success tips that we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's not specifically for that. And I had some personal experiences recently that I'm super excited to share with you all. And it came to me because I was like, so many of us spruce up our homes and do these things to get them ready to go on the market, right? So that we're the shiny penny in the marketplace.
Right.
And that's great. And of course, the realtor in me is all about that.
Right, absolutely.
And there have been a couple of projects around my house that I have been wanting to do for quite some time. One of them I've been wanting to do pretty much for the entire time I've lived in my house, which is coming up on 15 years.
Wow.
And then the other one is a more recent project, but it has been percolating in the back of my mind for a couple years now, at least. One is my laundry room, and that's the one I wanted to do pretty much since day one.
Wow.
And then the other is my backyard. So
I would just want to say on that, because I feel like if we get really honest about the spaces we live in, there's a lot of stuff. I can think about my house right now. Like, I've been in my house for 9 years, and not only are there things I've been wanting to do since day one, but there are accumulating projects that every year more projects get added because the house gets older and things happen. And
yep.
So I'm sure anybody listening to this can find themselves in this story of like, things they want to do to their house, but we don't.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I am total penny pincher, right? Like I'm a very frugal person. And that's definitely a lesson that was instilled in me by my parents, both very successful in their careers, financially successful, right? So they were not ones that needed to pinch pennies, and yet, they didn't pinch pennies, but they were selective in where they invested their money, right?
Yep.
And I think a lot of us can relate to that, right? So I struggle with investing money in myself, right? By my nature, I'm a giver, and I want to invest in everybody else, but not me. So I'll talk briefly about the laundry room, and then I want to spend, I'm really equally excited about both projects.
Yeah.
The laundry room, I guess it's not quite fair to say that I really wanted to do it for 15 years. I moved into this house about 15 years ago, and it took me a little while to really discover how poorly designed it was, right? And it had to do with the fact that had a front load washer, because 15 years ago, like, those were definitely all the rage.
Right.
And the way that my laundry room was set up and designed is the doors of my washer and dryer would fight with the door walking into the laundry room, which fought with the door to the linen closet in the laundry room.
Right. Yes.
And all of this could easily be solved if the washer dryer hookups were moved from wall A to wall B. Because it's in most laundry rooms, it's a rectangle, and it's close to being a square, but not quite a square. And I looked into it several years ago, and had a couple of contractors who I don't know, they gave me some ridiculous bids. And part of the problem is that I specifically called just a plumber, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And so the plumbers didn't really want to touch it because plumbers are plumbers. Plumbers aren't general contractors.
Right.
And so we did some bigger projects at my house earlier this year in the kitchen. So we did have a general contractor. So I took the general contractor up there to take a look at it. And he's like, yeah, this is totally doable, no problem. And his bids were less than what the plumbers had quoted me a few years back.
By the way, that's a great tip. I mean, that alone, I'm like, oh, okay. It's good to know who to talk to the right people, and you get a different bid, you know? I like that.
You do. And so I contacted a plumber, right? Because I was like, okay, well, the drywall and the flooring, that's no big deal. I can find any, like, you know, that's easy enough to find, right? But I need to talk to the plumber to get a quote for moving the stuff. What I didn't understand is that the plumbers truly just deal with the pipes. They don't deal with the getting access to the pipes once they're behind drywall, right?
Yeah.
And so I had my general contractor take a look at this. And then because he was a general, he had a plumber who he subcontracted with. So all the work was done by licensed, bonded people. You know, there was plumbing and electric that needed to be moved. My general contractor handled both of those. And without any problem, we moved plumbing and electrical from wall A to wall B. Got everything re-drywalled. And got new flooring installed. My flooring wasn't terrible, but we did have to move a vent. And so because we had to move a vent, we did have to go into the flooring.
Sure.
Added bonus is I got to get a little bit of an updated look. And so that was, it was an additional expense, but it was a happy additional expense because it really tied in beautifully.
Yeah.
But the space functions so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. And that's a helpful tip of, you know, make sure you talk to the right people, you know, talk to a general contractor, not just a plumber. Those are helpful tips. The power, though, I think comes in, I have wanted to do this for so long, but I didn't feel like I could invest. You know, the first bids were like $7,000 or something like that.
Right.
Which seemed really crazy. And even though I really wanted this done, and I knew I was going to be in this house for a long time, or at least the plan was that I was going to be in the house for a long time, I couldn't invest that kind of money in myself. That's what was tripping me up. It's not that I didn't have it. And by the way, it doesn't matter what the dollar figure is. Because 7,000 to one person might be a fortune. 7,000 to somebody else might be, you know, chump change. For me, it's somewhere in between, right?
Yeah.
The point isn't the dollar figure. The point is, what was I worth, right? That's where I struggled. And so I put it off and I put it off. And then going back to being frugal, when we did some of these larger projects around my house, I was very careful in making selections of what I did in other areas. And I'm very happy. I didn't shortchange myself on anything, but I was very careful in selections that I made because every bit I saved somewhere else meant more opportunity to possibly do this laundry room project because we decided to do a home equity to do some updates. And so we had a very set budget and we're like, we're not spending any more than this, and whatever we can get done within this budget, we can touch all these different places, right? Nice. So everything I saved on making certain tile selections in my kitchen and countertop selections meant more for the possibility for my laundry room.
Right, nice, yeah.
So I was willing to finally invest in myself. And I love it so much. And I'm kicking myself that I didn't have the courage to invest in myself before. That's kind of the power of the message. It doesn't matter the dollar figure.
How did you, right. So like with the laundry room, I think we all have these things in life or in our physically in our house, or just other things like relationships or pet peeves or whatever that irritate us, right? Like your door interfered with the door of the washer and dryer.
There were 4 doors fighting with each other.
And so we, right.
Nuts.
And right. Like it's such a great metaphor, because how much do we put up with things that just irritate us, that bump into other things in our life, and we just suffer through them and put up with them. And it doesn't have to be that way. And what I want to know is like, what shifted for you to where you're like, I'm going to figure out how to change this? Like, because you weren't changing it, and then all of a sudden you decided to change it. Well, what shifted?
So the tipping point is that it started with our refrigerator leaking. So there is a connection from the refrigerator to the laundry room. So that was a snowball effect of like, because the fridge leaked, we had to replace the fridge. But not only did we have to replace the fridge, the floor was damaged, so we had to repair or replace the floor. If we were going to repair and replace the floor, then we might as well repair or replace the carpet. If we're going to do that, we might as well change the countertops.
Right.
It was a little bit of a snowball effect. And my backstory is blended family, my husband moving in, from the day he moved in, wanting to do some things to make this feel like our space versus a home that I had been in and picked out and designed with somebody else. And so it was a way for us to stay in the same space for economic reasons, schooling reasons, and make it our space, right?
Yeah.
So we had a bigger project that was going to require some capital. And so that was the catalyst of, okay, well, if we're going to do that, then why don't we go ahead? What will it take to include X, Y, and Z, right?
I think that's there may be more that you're about to share, but I feel like I just don't want to capture that, because I feel like what is it going to take feels like an empowering question. Like if I just think about like in my house, all the things that have piled up in projects, I could just think like, what's it going to take? And I actually don't know, because I've never asked that question, and I've never investigated what it would actually take. And so I just put up with and suffer through all the things that are on my list, because I've never asked, what would it take?
And to be perfectly honest, like I love what we did with the kitchen. It's a beautiful space.
Yeah.
I honestly probably could have done a much smaller home equity line and done my laundry room years ago. And I probably would have lived with my kitchen a lot longer.
Interesting.
So my point is
good point.
Ask yourself that question of what is it going to take, and see if you can shift that tipping point, right? Because I am so pleased that it is done, and it just functions so much better. And it's a big toleration that I removed from my life.
Yep.
Okay.
Totally. I love that.
That's my laundry room. The other one is even more fun. And that one was an idea that sparked a couple of years ago when I helped my mother find a home in the neighborhood. And she found a resale home. It wasn't brand new, but the people she purchased it from were the original owners. And they had taken a lot of care and pride in their property. And they actually had turf in their backyard.
Like fake or like
what?
Like fake turf or like sod or what? Like grass?
It looks like grass, but it's not. It's
synthetic,
turf like
artificial.
You would plant on a soccer field, but it's specifically. It doesn't look like that. It looks like grass, right?
Wow. Okay.
And I mean, this is about embracing life in Issaquah, and so a lot of people viewing this are probably familiar with Issaquah Highlands, and the backyards aren't great. A lot of the soil in the area is very heavy in clay. So a lot of yards tend to be soggy. And when my mom bought her home, her backyard is like this oasis, right? It's just beautiful. And it was perfect for my mom because Um,
Hmm.
living on her own, like, it's just one less thing that she has to worry about. She doesn't have to mow it, things like that. There is
Right.
maintenance involved.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier than, you know, regular mowing and so on and so forth. And that's where I first got the bug. And I was like, my backyard faces north and east. So it doesn't get a ton of sun. And especially where the grass was in my backyard, really doesn't get very much sun. And so it would be really soggy. And we have 3 dogs, which didn't help. But it was a disaster even before the dogs. So I'd been bugging my husband. I was like, we should get turf, we should get turf, we should get turf. And he just, he grew up, you know, where took a lot of pride in mowing the grass and taking care of the lawn and things like that. So he really struggled, right? And for him, it wasn't so much about the cost. He was a little bit concerned because it was not, again, not an inconsequential amount, but not crazy. So it was a little bit about the cost. It was a little bit about the pride. So those were his stumbling blocks. Much like my stumbling blocks were not wanting to invest in myself with the laundry room.
Sure. Yeah.
Long story short, he saw how much I really wanted this, and he's like, okay. And the day he got installed in one day, by the way, shout out to a local vendor, Dream Turf, which is based in Snohomish.
Dream Turf. Cool.
Phenomenal. Really great company to work with. The crew was friendly, polite, on time. They did a beautiful job. Local company. So anyway, that's just my little random shout out.
That's good. I like it.
But it got installed. Everything got done in one day. And my husband came home from work that day and he's like, wow, this looks great, right? So and it just got done this past week. Well, this whole past week, we just all have naturally been gravitated to the backyard. So I effectively added 500, 600 square feet to my
living space, living space. Yeah.
You know, 500 or 600 square foot yard is not a very big yard, but when your yards are that small, every little bit counts, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it promoted us gathering as a family, and my husband even commented. So we invested in the turf, and we finally also invested in some outdoor lawn furniture. I really had a vision for some couches and a fire pit. And so all told, we were in for maybe $5,500 between the turf and the lawn furniture and the fire pit that we got.
Wow. I feel like lawn furniture is like $5,500. That's pretty good. I mean, if you get like the turf and all of it, that's awesome.
Yep.
Great.
And my husband made the comment, he's like, I kind of feel like we're camping, you know, because we were out there, the girls were playing in the backyard. They were kept practicing their pitching, and then they'd go from practicing pitching to playing with a volleyball. He was sitting on the deck in one of our couches with the fire pit on, with a beer in hand. We had music going.
That's the perfect Pacific Northwest spring.
It was fantastic. Yeah. And of course, it helped that the weather this weekend was amazing, right? Yeah. But the point is we all gravitated to there. My daughter actually even wanted to sleep out on the couch last night, and I had to talk her back, and I'm like, it's a school night. No.
Right, yeah.
You know, she doesn't watch regular TV. She watches Netflix, right? Which is, I think most kids do these days. Anyways, so she just took her laptop out there, sat on the couch, had the fire pit going, watching her show. So again, his roadblock was a combination of money but even more so pride, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet we still have beautiful flower beds that we can take care of. So we can still, because we love to get our hands dirty, right? That's just who he and I are, and we're teaching that to our girls.
Nice.
But we have beautiful flower beds that we can maintain. Turf is not maintenance free. Like, you do have to take care of it. So there's still going to be that pride, and he just didn't realize that at first.
Yeah.
The only difference is now, after we spend time in the garden, when we're done, we have this beautiful space to be in versus mucky, yucky grass that no matter how many times you try to fertilize it and aerate it and bring it back to life, it just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah. Side note, in the last 8 years, like the appreciation of property, I don't know when people listening to this bought their home, but if you've been in your home for any length of time, sometimes I'm just trying to think of really practical, ways to make these things happen. A home equity line of credit can sometimes, you can get decent projects done and not add much to your monthly payment.
Exactly.
And again, it just goes back to a couple of things that I'm pulling from what you're sharing. Like, one, we don't ask the question, like, how can I do this? We just kind of sit there and suffer through it thinking we can't do it. But if we said, how could we do it? That would lead to the next thing, which would be starting to look for some of, like, what assets do you have that could create it? And a home equity line of credit is an awesome way to do it.
Yep.
Because for a very small payment, you can actually add such quality of life, invest in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I would just say, let's say it was $150 a month or $200 a month in a monthly payment, that would be a decent remodel.
Right.
People spend more than that on going out to dinner in a month.
Exactly. And yet you go out to dinner,
right?
And it's one and done.
Yep.
You
right.
spend that $150 on a strategic remodel, and that $150 is now going to make you money.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
totally. It's good.
If it's a great point. And so we finally, and these are two of the smaller projects that we did, right? Our big project was our kitchen and new flooring throughout the entire house. Mm-hmm. That was ultimately the catalyst that all started with a fridge that died. And when it died because it leaked and it created, it warped our wood floor. So that was the catalyst. That was the pain that it took us to do these things. And my point is, you're worth more than that. Mm-hmm. I'm worth more than that. It didn't need to take something so big for me to pull the trigger on these other two projects that have profound impact on my house. And that's my point. You don't have to necessarily do a huge remodel to fit these other kind of things in. And I'm so glad that I did it, because it's a beautiful space. It's bringing my family together. And nobody's going to really have an appreciation for not being able to see how the laundry room was laid out before. That particular project was more for me, right?
Yeah.
That isn't necessarily going to improve the resale. To the same extent, my backyard is going to be a wow factor. And there is no question that my backyard, it now is going to increase my property value for sure.
So good. I love it. I feel like that's at the heart of, we embracing, that's why I love embracing life as a conversation, because I feel like we do a lot of waiting for tomorrow or someday maybe. Well, me too, absolutely. And I feel like but we just get to kind of encourage and nudge through this show. Like embracing life, all you have guaranteed is right now. Like today, tomorrow's not guaranteed, right? And it doesn't mean go leverage your life to the hilt and go into massive debt for stuff, but it does mean you don't have to put up with the little things that annoy you. You can start to look for, how can I embrace living a bigger life, right? So I just think that's it. That's what we all want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you want if you want to know more, if you want somebody to bounce ideas off of asking the questions, how can, for the tolerations that are in your life, and you want to know, how do I make that happen? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Reach out to me. I am happy to help brainstorm. And again, I am a penny pincher. So I'm not coming from a perspective of, just leverage yourself, like crazy. That's not my motto at all. And I'm happy to help brainstorm ideas or think of other solutions of, okay, so here's your original plan. Is there a way we can modify that and still get rid of the toleration, but do it in a less expensive fashion? That's what I'm all about, right?
Yeah.
So feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to be posting on my blog before and after pictures of my yard. So if anybody wants to see those, check out my blog at RebeccaCuno.com.
Perfect. That's so good. And you're a great designer, by the way. Like, you have a good eye for design. So, I mean, that offer of like sitting down with people and giving them perspective is awesome, So,
thank you.
And you're a real estate agent.
Definitely my passion, for sure.
Yeah, I know. It's so fun. And you're a real estate agent. So you also can have kind of a perspective for value and just the impact that it has on the asset of real estate. So this is I love this conversation. Thank you. I look forward to more ways that you continue to, help us embrace life in a bigger way, whether it's with our homes or our families or our careers, whatever it is. But again, thanks, Rebecca, for always bringing great content. Again, you guys can go to RebeccaCuno.com. You'll see that in the post. The link will be in the post. And until then, Rebecca, until next time, take care.
Bye, everybody.